Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the Football Diary podcast. It's international break this time around with a new look England with Lee Carsley in the dugout, looking to see how they get on in their first game against Republic of Ireland, which ended up as a 2-0 win for Carsley's men. So an interesting moment to analyse just how England won that game. What was the difference between this and the Gareth Southgate tenure? What do you guys think about this new direction? Are you happy for Carsley to take the job permanently after what you've seen? Or do you think maybe we should give it to more an experienced manager? I would try and analyse this game in three different parts, really. First of all, what were the differences between Carsley's England and Southgate's England? Secondly, what about the goals? How were they made? What was my opinion of them? And thirdly, what about the players? What direction do I think a Carsley squad could look like going forward if he was made permanent? Okay, so how about the game? A 2-0 win for England against the Republic of Ireland in Dublin. Always a positive result, you'd say, isn't it? But especially against the backdrop of boos and accusations of being a snake to Declan Rice and Jack Grealish. And of course, Lee Carsley, former Republic of Ireland international player himself in the dugout, not singing God Save the King too. So put that aside and all that weird narrative that was trying to be created, and we can actually analyse this for what it was, which was a very professional and attack-minded performance from England, which could have gone further than the 2-0, but I think stopped at 2-0 purely probably out of fatigue more than anything, because these England players have played a lot of football lately, especially since they came back from the Euros, and the Premier League has hit the ground running, hasn't it, really? So, yeah, a lot of these players were probably tired. So, understandably, they eased off in the second half. But the first half really showed kind of what kind of football we can expect from a Lee Carsley team, hopefully. And I think a lot of the descriptions that were used about this kind of football was the handbrakes were off. Basically, the shackles were off. The players were given license to go forward at speed, look for forward passes, more forward passes, I think, than we've ever seen in a game from England. And with the players we've got in that front six, that was something we could do. Like it really worked for the majority of the time. And we'll talk about the goals in a moment, but they were both crafted out of forward thinking and passes forward that might not have otherwise happened under Gareth Southgate. So yeah, a much fresher, more direct approach from Lee Carsley. And you could see with the players that he picked, first of all, and the kind of football that the players were trying to achieve, that this was a coaching direction that Carsley wanted to take the players in. And you can see that that was the way he was going to go from how the under-21s played. But the kind of players that he's going to trust from now on might be influenced by his under-21 time too. Obviously, we saw debuts here, deserved debuts as well for Morgan Gibbs-White especially, who's been phenomenal this last 12 months. But also for Angel Gomez, who's been a key player, a key assist maker for Lille in Ligue 1 as well, from a deep midfield area, and not the kind of player we've got in the squad currently. So these are trusted players for Lee Carsley. And I think that might be a direction that England take going forward if he remains in charge. But in this game, they had their debuts, they played some minutes. But Anthony Gordon was the interesting one, given quite a free role, I think, in this game. Obviously overlooked for most parts for the Euros by Gareth Southgate, but Carsley really likes Anthony Gordon, doesn't he? He made him quite a key, pivotal, free player in England's run to the Euros under-21 final, where they became winners. So could we see more from Anthony Gordon? I think we probably could, and that's not a bad thing. He kind of fits Cars ball, or whatever you want to call it, quite nicely. Another player who really benefited, I think, from Lee Carsley was Trent Alexander-Arnold, who played in a natural right-back position, and after the failed experiment in midfield, I was glad to see him play in that position that he plays for his club. And to great effect. His forward passes are amongst the best in the game, and his vision is fantastic, isn't it? And I think if you have players that are making forward runs that are kind of looking to be aimed at from these kind of passes, then it comes off really nicely. And it did for England's first goal, which we'll talk about in a moment. But Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, pinging the kind of balls forward that we hoped he could and would, and he has done for Liverpool for many years, was great to see. And I think that was a key feature tactically of England's play, that a lot of the balls were positive balls. There were positive passes forward instead of sideways or backwards, or, there was no kind of period where England were particularly laboured or looked sluggish or slow like they did at times under Gareth Southgate. In fact, they had more forward balls than they've had in many of the recent games under Gareth Southgate statistically. And that was refreshing to see. I think we were comfortable going forward at pace and with direction and attacking impetus, breaking the lines really nicely and effectively. Yeah, they outclassed Ireland, but it was made to look quite easy at times. And I think that was in most part down to the fact that England were playing such nice, neat passing triangles forward at pace wherever possible to try and get into attacking positions. And for both the goals, that paid off. It really worked a charm. And I think that's a real departure from what we've seen under Gareth Southgate, where it did feel like we slowed down whenever we got forward past the halfway line under Southgate. It felt like we were suddenly given instructions to kind of go, whoa, hang on a second, let's evaluate what's in front of us. Let's see what risk there is. They were a bit more direct here and a bit less risk averse. I think they really were looking for opportunities to get forward against a fairly weak Irish team. And that direct approach brought a lot of the forward six into play. It meant that the likes of Anthony Gordon and Jack Grealish especially, who played fantastically, and again, a player that was snubbed altogether for the Euros and had a real point to prove. With it being in Dublin too, I think that was especially true. And he played brilliantly. He had probably one of the best games I've seen from him for a while, for club or country. And he played more like the Jack Grealish that we saw at Villa. I don't know if you agree with that, but he looked a lot freer. He looked like he was the player that was making decisions and dictating play rather than the player that was meant to slot into a particular system. And that freedom was kind of obvious with everything England did in that first half especially. And that was really encouraging to see. And for a talented team like we've got, makes a difference, I think, in fans' perceptions and hopes going forward. So let's talk about the two goals. Well, we flew out the traps, didn't we, in that first half an hour? The kind of football that we played to create the goals too, again, super encouraging. That pass from deep from Trent Alexander-Arnold through to Anthony Gordon. First of all, the vision from Trent to make that pass is something we've seen many times, isn't it, over the years for Liverpool, but never really truly been harnessed for England. We obviously tried to play Trent in midfield more recently, and that clearly was not a great idea. It wasn't his best position at all, I think, and he's a lot more effective at scanning the field in front of him from quite deep, isn't he? And he did that for the opening pass for the first goal. And Anthony Gordon really should have done better. He did well to receive the pass and make that run in the first place, but no, he failed with his shot. It then fell to Harry Kane, who kind of got blocked quite quickly, eventually falling to Declan Rice, who smashed it into the top corner. And obviously the narrative of Rice scoring in Dublin at the Aviva Stadium in front of fans of a country that he represented. And obviously he's got a lot of Irish family too. He was quite respectful, reserved in his celebration, but nonetheless must have been super happy to actually be on the score sheet, because he has had a mixed role in midfield, hasn't he, under Gareth Southgate? But in this game, him and Colby Mainu kind of played off each other brilliantly in midfield. And to be in the right place at the right time for that goal was indicative of how England were positioned going forward. They always looked to be in advanced positions, and players like Rice, who were maybe kind of instructed to stay a bit deeper, were now being told to find themselves in positions like the one Rice found himself in for the goal. And that was great to see. And the same applies for the Grealish goal, really. And despite the fact that Jack Grealish was not as reserved in his celebration, which is kind of understandable, I think he's just relieved, first of all, to be back in the England fold. And what a great kind of game to come back into for him. It's almost like a double reason to prove yourself. First of all, yes, I'm back in the England squad, in the starting 11, but also in Dublin too. So yeah, an added element of narrative for Jack Grealish, but he really took his chance and his goal superbly and kind of orchestrated a lot of the best moves that England had in the final third, where they were trying to orchestrate forward passes and intricate movements between players and passing triangles to get the ball as forward as quickly and neatly as possible. And they did that really well. The goal was kind of the evidence of that, really, and it came off on that occasion. It would have been nice to have seen England do stuff like that more often, I think, and maybe score 3 or 4 goals against what was quite a poor Republic of Ireland team. But I think once we'd gone 2-0 up, it was job done. Ireland didn't look like a threat very much. But generally speaking, I think we were quite comfortable for large parts of the game. So the handbrake came off, we flew out the traps, we scored those 2 wonderful goals. Everything feels calm and comfortable. And I think the fact that we brought on Gibbs White and Gomez meant that Carsley knew it was comfortable too, and felt like he could throw 2 players on for their debuts and there'd be no risk attached to it whatsoever. So yeah, 2 very well-crafted goals. And again, another indicator of the direction that Lee Carsley could go in if he was permanent England manager. Okay, so it's early days. It's 1 game in as we record, and we've beaten quite a mediocre Republic of Ireland team, but What does it mean for the future of Lee Carsley? What does it mean for the future of English football if he is to stay at the helm? So we know he trusts his under-21 players. We've seen that with the 2 substitutions and the debuts handed to Gibbs White and Gomez. I think that could be true of quite a few more players that were under 21 regulars too. Cole Palmer, if he continues the kind of form he's in, will definitely get more of a shout going forwards as a starter for England, I think. Anthony Gordon, I think, will at least be a squad player, somebody that will have an impact. But obviously for the under 21s, he was a key player in England winning the Euros, wasn't he? He was like basically a free roaming attacking midfielder under Lee Carsley in that summer, and really was an effective weapon without having too many touches of the ball. He just got in the right places and made the right passes at all the right times for Carsley. So Gordon can probably feature a lot more than he has done in the past. Jack Grealish definitely will come back into the fold. I don't think we'll see much of a reliance on wing backs and set pieces as we've seen in the past if Carsley stays at the helm, because the front players are all trusted to do their jobs and to create chances on their own without needing, for example, a Kyle Walker or a Luke Shaw at left back bombing down the flanks and putting crosses in. That also probably means that there'll be less opportunities for Harry Kane, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think our reliance on Kane has been a little bit scary in recent years. So to see the attacking talent around him being called upon to kind of have their chances and to do the donkey work and the leg work and attack themselves as well will be pivotal, I think, in England, spreading the goals around the team. And I don't know if Kane will be happier with that. I think it will definitely take the burden off him as he kind of enters his twilight years, if you want to call them that. But it does mean that England will have more of a threat going forward. And we've missed that, haven't we? And that's the next phase, I think, for England, is to harness this attacking talent in a way that is easy on the eye, I think, because fans need that to feel like we're progressing, really, don't we? And I think we haven't seen that enough under Gareth Southgate. But also it's just effective use of the players we've got available at our disposal. We've got such a talented set of attacking players, especially wide forward players, that to not harness that with the kind of goals that we saw in the first half would be a bit of a shame, you know? So I guess what that boils down to is, can I see Carsley as a permanent England manager? Yeah, I wouldn't be against the idea after one game. And I know it's early days and first impressions count for very little against a weak opposition. But this is the kind of opposition we probably would have scored maybe one against in a very unconvincing fashion a year ago. And the manner of a victory really does matter. And I think if we are to win games with this team, we want to see it done with a bit of flair and a bit of attacking impetus. And I think that's something that we'll definitely see based on this evidence from a Lee Carsley team. So whatever happens in the game against Finland, which obviously, as I record, hasn't been played yet, it doesn't really matter kind of for me. I think we know what kind of football Carsley's going to play. I think Southgate played with fear. Carsley plays like he knows the players can do their job. There's a lot of trust placed in them. And I think that is a wonderful thing for a player's confidence when he comes into the England fold, knowing that the coach fully trusts what he does, what he brings to the team, and that he can actually produce the goods for him. So yeah, it could be a potent combination if he's successful. I'm keen to know your thoughts, so leave comments down below. I'd love to know whether you think Carsley ball or Cars ball or whatever cliche phrase you want to call it is an effective use of these England players, because it's a great generation of players we've got. Is Lee Carsley the right kind of approach for the FA? Or are you looking for somebody more senior, somebody more tactically proven with elite players? Do we need a manager, a coach like, Jurgen Klopp or Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola? Is that the kind of coach that could, first of all, manage at international level? Or is somebody who knows the inside outs of English football like Carsley preferable? Tell me what you think. Until then, speak soon. Take care.